same thing as Sami. I wanted her to talk about that experience and what Hockey Canada did, what she got out of that skills camp, how they operated it, and what were the new things that she said appeared to be up and coming. Sami, go ahead.
For sure. So Wally, maybe I can talk more about this when we get they're going to put all of our presentation materials in a Dropbox, and so I can share that with you guys as well. So we had some amazing videos and stuff that I think would be really great to discuss the nuances of goaltending. Okay. So let me just tell you that it was 30 people in a room talking about the minutia of goaltending. So you had to really be a goalie nerd to really appreciate it. But it was amazing. What I love about goalie coaches specifically is goalie coaches have to work into a team. And so often they are very open and very sharing and willing to help others. It is a segment of hockey that is, I think, way more inclusive and also more open to growth and learning than I think any other aspect of hockey. So that was really nice to see. I think that there wasn't many egos. Some of the people ran businesses. Well, all of the people ran businesses, but you rarely heard about it. It was mostly about sharing new concepts. So during the camp or during our education, Team Alberta, U18, U16, U14 men's hockey goalie camp was going on, and U18, U16 women's camp was going on. And so we got to go on the ice with the goalies, but we also got to see how people coach, and we got to learn ways of disseminating information just as important as the actual information. So if I'm to get into the minutia of goaltending, it might bore this group a little bit, but for instance, we spent an hour in our group of 6 discussing paddle length, which, so everybody knows now, is now going in the direction of measurement while the goalie's in the butterfly, not while they're standing. So goalies will have really tiny sticks, and it almost looks like they're playing mini hockey. So look for that next time you're watching goalies at the top level. You don't really do that until they are fully developed as in their stance in the ground, like on the ice. But that was a big sort of change for me. I had never really seen that before. Brad Kirkwood was there, who was the women's national team goalie coach. So I really picked his brain about what it was like to work with the girls and what his big things that he works on. I was pleasantly surprised that he got 30 minutes a day with the goalies, which is pretty rare in the goaltending community. Normally you get 5 or 6 minutes with goalies. And he got that separate. And then he also got some input into the way drills finished and how they could be more competitive or battle oriented for his goalies. So I thought that group worked really well. Brad is really big on stance, so that it all comes down to how you stand and really getting that as your base. So that was fascinating, working on sort of the details of hand positioning, where they should be in relation to your body, foot positioning. Goaltending had gotten really wide for a while, and now it's getting back to being in a good athletic stance. So that was really great, but also I think just meeting the other goalie coaches was interesting. And we had a presentation one day by France, I forget his last name, but he's a goalie coach for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And he presented the morning after a game from his hotel room in Colorado, which was incredible. But he had been to this program before and felt an affinity to this group. So I think it becomes like a brother sisterhood, for lack of a better term, I think, of being able to help each other across the country. Similar to skills coaches, I'm sure, but I assume, Kim, that the skills coaching world is a little bit different because you guys are kind of battling for the same positions potentially. I don't know if there's there's definitely sharing. I see that within the skills coaching, but I see it as more of a business than perhaps the goalie coaching world. You can tell me if that's different or not, but
yeah, I don't know that it's it's funny because I perceive the goalie world in Toronto to be a little more cutthroat than maybe you've described. But as I always say in Toronto, there's more than enough fish in the sea here. We can all run our businesses, and every time I walk into the rink, there's, 8 or 9 other hockey camps going on, and we all seem to be doing fine. So, but I'm excited for the same opportunity, and I like what you said about, how goalie coaches are integrated into the team, because sometimes as a skills coach, right, there's a tendency for skills coaches to come in and kind of, these are my drills and this is what I'm going to run, and not always collaborate with the head coaches about, what are the key principles of play, or what is your team actually trying to accomplish? So, I think that's maybe the advantage for me, or the way I approach it with all the teams I work with, is you got to meet them where they are, right? And understand how you infuse your skills into what they're trying to do conceptually. But I'm glad to hear the goalie coaches are getting more time. My goalie coach with my junior team always asked when I could have the goalies back, because I'd run most of the practice without them. And I think Sandy got tired of yelling at them at the other end. But
I think you're pretty unique in that way. So, but you've also been through this whole system before, so kind of the importance. Also, there was Gord Woodall, who was just the coach of the U18 women's team. And I got to spend a lot of time with him, but also disseminate what Howie Draper's message was to the team, and his team building culture and environment. And that was enlightening. I mean, it was so fascinating to hear just, this is Gord's second time with Howie. And I said to him, I kind of asked, after 7-0, how was the team? And he just said Howie is just such an inspirational man, and he has these themes for every team. And so I found that fascinating, and I think we should have Howie Draper on one day to talk about the themes, because coming from Gord, obviously second hand, but Gord actually has a tattoo of a wolf on his arm from his last participation with Howie, which was, I think, in Slovakia in 2019. Is that right, Kim? Maybe? Last U18s?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, anyways, they didn't even win. They didn't even win the championship, but the idea of Wolfpack mentality, what Howie Draper had disseminated to the staff and the team, stuck with him so much that he got a tattoo of of the wolf that they had been talking about. So this year's theme for the team was fire. And I will explain it very briefly, but I think we should have Howie on it. So it's sort of a pyramid. He always has a pyramid themed dissemination of information. So starting at the base was the oxygen needed for the fire. And so at the training camps, that was what he laid out. And they talked about the importance of oxygen in everyday life, and how it is a life giver, and that you need to be to give life to others. So you need to build up others around you. You need to create those bonds of friendship, and just everything was about everybody else, and building team and that oxygen. And then the next one was fuel. So the fuel came at the in the pre-camp, where they started to battle and started to really work off each other and started to fuel. And then I think the final one was flame, and flame was that drive, I think, for excellence, and being able to all be there for each other, striving to be better, something like that. But after they lost to Finland, the first game, Howie went right back to oxygen. And that night, that day, even in the dressing room afterwards, talked about being there for each other, and really building each other up, and building the person around you, and that these moments are fleeting, and would always go back to the base and then build up again. And I just found that really fascinating. And so I think we should have him on to talk about how he creates that culture, but also now having coached for 22 years in U Sports, he probably has 22 different themes that he's come up with. So, where do these come from? From a team culture building mentality, that's what I'm so fascinated with. And is he finding this pyramid structure every time, and how much research and innovation goes around that? So